Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in today for another great webinar series that we're always happy to put on for you. My name, as always, is Alex Perny, and today we are very pleased to welcome on Steven Libman of Integrity Holdings to talk about aligning your worldviews with your investments, and they don't necessarily have to be divorced from each other. You can certainly have a outlook or a certain position in life that you want to make sure you maintain, whether that be through altruism, giving, or some type of spiritual connection that you have with your investments. And that's kind of the ethos that Integrity Holdings has, and we're going to be talking about that today. So again, we're really pleased to welcome on Steven today to talk about that. If you do have any questions, make sure you do type those into the chat boxes. All audio has been muted on your end, and if you would like a copy of the slide deck, it is attached as a handout to this presentation as well, so you can grab it right there. With that said, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Alex Perny. I'm a business development specialist here at Advanta IRA. I've been here, proud to say, as of last Monday for a full 12 years. So starting my lucky number 13 years of doing alternative investments and specifically this kind of investing for clients. So proud of that milestone. I'm very happy to have been able to bring great service and opportunities to clients throughout that time here at Advanta. If you do have any questions on the IRA side of things, or you'd like some more information or to connect with me, I'm always happy to connect. That is my direct line right there. It doesn't accept text, but I'm always available. Please give me a call, or you can shoot me an email if you have questions as well. All my contact information is right there for you. A bit of a disclaimer before we do get started. Advanta IRA and our employees, we do not provide investment advice, nor do we endorse or promote any investment products. All informational materials are for educational purposes only, and all parties are encouraged to consult their attorneys, accountants, and financial advisors before entering into any type of investment. I did see someone quickly put up a raised hand. Keep in mind, again, if you do have a question, type those in. We don't necessarily call on people individually, and we do keep audio muted on the participant side throughout the duration of the actual presentation. So please just make sure if you have questions, type those in. I will monitor them and then I will pose them to the guest as they come up. A little bit about Advanta IRA. We're a self-directed IRA retirement plan administrator. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but we provide clients exceptional service and experience with knowledge of specifically administering alternative assets, so things that aren't on a stock, bond, or mutual fund market for their IRAs. Additional information about us. We are also proud to say that we've been in business for over 20 years, specifically only doing alternative investments. So we didn't start out as a brokerage. We didn't start out as a title company. We have always been doing what we've been doing, and we've been doing it for over 20 years. We have certified IRA services professionals on staff. We also have several attorneys, although we don't give tax or legal advice, but we have a large, diverse group of people across a lot of different sectors that can certainly help you to drive and accomplish the goals that you are looking to accomplish. If you are looking to do self-direction, maybe you're a little bit new to this, just because you're doing this doesn't mean you're giving up anything inherently from your more traditional brokerages at your big wirehouses. All cash deposits are still FDIC insured. We have Arizona Emissions Insurance, Fidelity bonds, on any of our actions as a company. So keep in mind that if you're looking to do this, although maybe these things are alternative in nature, you're not necessarily giving up any of the normal suite of securities that you used to with a normal, let's say, bank or brokerage. We are pleased to also announce that we had just crossed over the $3 billion of AUM mark. It's something that we're very proud of. When I started back doing this in beginning of 2012, it's not a number I ever thought we would see on our AUM sheets, but it's something that we're very happy, and it's a testament to just how effective this type of investing strategy can be for people and how many people are adopting it. And lastly, a little bit about us. We offer dedicated account management to every single one of our clients. So whether you are a $1,000 account that's looking to do some real estate wholesaling, flipping, and options contracts, or you're a $1 million account, you get the same great level of personalized customer service from one of our expert representatives that will help you get anything you need to accomplished. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Steven Libman. It's been a pleasure knowing Steven for the past probably frighteningly long number of years. I think it's probably going into probably about 6 or 7 years now that we've known each other and have worked with your clients. So happy to have you on for the first time on our webinar series. I know we did a podcast probably about a year or two ago with you, but happy to have you on to talk a little bit about investing with purpose. So Steven, I'll turn it over to you now. And keep in mind, if you do have questions, again, the raised hand function doesn't necessarily do anything in this scenario. You would need to type in any questions that you have to the chat box, and I will administer those throughout the presentation. With that said, Steven, take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your schedules to listen to just a little bit of our ethos when it comes to investing. We have tons of clients that we've referred over to Advanta as they are getting more sensitive to the fact that you can be purposeful about your investments. I think right now we have a lot of folks that are starting to recognize that their investments are maybe going into things that are antithetical to their own worldview. So just wanted to give you guys some insight onto how we think about investing as an investment company and where those boundaries and markers are for us that we want to just be purposeful and intentional about thinking through. So we call it investing with purpose, aligning your investment strategy with your worldview. So we are just a little bit of background on us. We started as fix and flip folks, and we did about 1,000 rehab and wholesale deals up in the New Jersey area. We've invested over $330 million in commercial real estate, currently under contract and closing on $281 million of new deal flow. We just closed 982 units in Tampa, Florida for $200 million. So we're in scale mode. We've invested in over 300,000 square feet of self-storage, invested in 2,000 units of apartments, that number to jump to 3,500 now. And then 800 units of student housing. We are a fund, so we actively partner with institutional quality sponsors that have billions of dollars under management, that have vertically integrated teams, collectively have $2.5 billion of assets under management. So that's just a little bit of history on who we are. So why does it matter? You know, like, are we just chasing return, or can we actually make an impact? Is kind of where we started. And we always encourage folks to think about their family, to think about their investment opportunities, to align with their core values. And sometimes families I've recognized that haven't even started a core value conversation, it's very difficult to think through, are my investments aligned with my core values, because we haven't named it yet. You know, so we're focused on purpose-driven investing and a purpose-driven life. Typically, what we've done as investors is we will delegate our responsibility of stewardship. So we're a faith-based investment firm, and so you'll hear some of those biblical principles come out throughout the conversation. But we believe that we have a responsibility to steward our funds and what the Lord has given us. And oftentimes we find that we're abdicating that stewardship to other people, financial advisors, or and that's fine to have those obviously as part of your team. But when you sit down and have a holistic worldview of how do my investments align, oftentimes we're giving the responsibility of choosing the types of investments to someone else. And oftentimes we find that they're investing in companies or mutual funds that don't align with our worldview. And so that was the first time that we started thinking through, like, wow, can we do both? Can we make a temporal return and an eternal one? Right? There's no shortage of need in the world. Can these businesses and can these profits that we're creating through the investment world actually go to do some good? Proverbs 11:25, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. So first, how do we establish core values? So we always give a real practical set of how to create core values, right? And I always tell people, if you can think of 3 people that you admire, and that could be past, present, superhero, fictional character, whatever, and then write down 3 to 5 traits that you admire about those folks. When you start to look at all of these people and all of these traits, you'll start to see some things pop up, right? Maybe you admire your dad because he was brave, or your mom because she was nurturing, or Clark Kent because he was strong. Like, whatever the case may be, you start to write down those core values, or those traits, and then they start to speak to what your core values are. So you can see ours on the right-hand side: Christ-centered, integrity, respect, growth, humility. Those are things that, if you think about being a business owner, you hire, fire, promote, and demote on those core values. Similarly, in your family and your investments, it's what do we collectively value and what things do we want to make sure that we're achieving through those values. So for our story, we wanted to give more abundantly before we, quote, made it. And as a point of prayer, we partner um, in every deal that we do. So we're a tithing company, so that's 10% of our net profits go to nonprofits. And then above that, we do what we call an offering. So the first deal was 1% past the tithe to a nonprofit. The next deal was 2%. The next deal was 4%. Um, our percentage will hopefully land at somewhere between 20 and 25% this year. And that's of corporate profits. It doesn't affect our investors' returns. It's just something that we wanted to do in terms of giving, right? So our big, hairy, audacious goal is to give 80% past the tithe. So essentially give 90 and let the business operate on 10. To do that, obviously we would need to be a pretty large scaled out company. So I think we're on track this year to have just about $1 billion of assets under management if we keep this pace. So we think it can be done. Let's see if I can move this along. So this is just kind of a chart that we go through in terms of formation, mission, individuals, communities, the world. How are we affecting others? How are we serving others? And so um, that first conversation that we had was, okay, so we're giving, right? Now we have the vision of how we can make an impact, and then how do we do that indeed? How are we stewarding the people that are not just investing with us, not just the dollars, but also the people that are living on site of these apartment complexes that we own, right? We're buying 1,540 units this month. That relates to 1,540 families that we have access to create a good experience, right? To love on those folks. So some myths. One, the world teaches us that we can't have both. We can't have temporal returns and eternal ones, right? It's always, is it philanthropy or is it investment? And, we disagree. We believe that the marketplace is a fantastic place to be able to create impact and good investment opportunities. So we're told to serve ourselves first and that we can serve others versus being able to do both at the same time, right? It's like fill your cup up and then you can help others. And there's some truth to this, but also you can do it in parallel. So we always talk about the great entrepreneurial lie that we're doing it for our family. So if you talk to entrepreneurs, they're always grinding out kind of the business and how they're growing and scaling the business, but often is at the expense of their families. And similarly, the investment lie is that, we're trying to make a good return so that it aligns with our core values, but in turn we're neglecting them because we, again, have abdicated that stewardship to somebody else. So again, some just quick Bible verses on command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant nor to put their hope in wealth, which is uncertain, but to put their hope in God who richly provides us everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasures for themselves and a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. And, we think of this as such a fantastic premise on, what is really important and do these things align with our core values. So there are ways to steward your money that grows and leaves an inheritance while also leaving a legacy of generosity. And for us, they go hand in hand. Even with my kids, I have 3 kids, 10, 6, and 4 years old. And when you start having conversations, daddy's in the investment world, so what does that mean? We start talking about what can investments do. So creating passive income is fantastic. Creating tax benefits is fantastic. But what is the purpose of that? So every year we have a donor advised fund that's run by our family, and that's just a vehicle, by the way, on how to give. And our kids will come in and they'll pick some causes that they want to invest in or to give to. And we live down in the Hilton Head area in South Carolina, so sea turtles are a big thing down here. So this year, one of my kids wanted to give to the sea turtles. And some of the other kids want to buy backpacks for kids that are less fortunate when they start school. And what we're teaching them is not necessarily about money, right? The value of a dollar is certainly intertwined in there, but also why are we given the opportunity to earn this money and what good can come out of it? What good can we do with it? So intentionally raising our kids to be looking at generosity as a core value for our family. How can we be more generous? And to be more generous, you have to earn better returns, right? So that's also why we like real estate, is because we're able to earn more stable, consistent return profiles without the volatility of the stock market. And that's why a lot of our customers go to Advanta. So the third bullet there is you have to be intentional about where we invest, right? Are we supporting, you're supporting an agenda with every dollar that you spend and invest. Which ones are we focused on? So again, it's not going to be perfect, right? This is something that I think is a good exercise to think through, not necessarily all or nothing, right? Like for us, we're starting with big rocks. Right now, we're banked with an institution that has been debanking people on the conservative end of the spectrum, and we give them tens of millions of dollars a month. And for us, we recognize that since COVID, the fractional banking reserve requirement for banks has been lifted, which means they can take that $10 million a month and lend it out to hundreds of millions of dollars a month, but they're doing things and supporting actions that are antithetical to our worldview. So that's a big rock for us, right? We're going to be able to move that to a bank that won't do that. So these are the types of things that we're thinking through is, can we practice what we preach? Can we be the tip of the spear? Can we align our, and it's not going to be perfect. Again, it's not going to be every single thing. There's going to be corporations and, places you shop and things that you end up investing in that might not align 100% with your worldview. But I think it's good to wrestle with that. Okay, so how we do it. So we talked about moving a percentage of each deal of overall company profits. So I'm sorry, we went from giving a percentage of each deal, right? 1%, 2%, 4%, to moving towards percentage of total company profits. Now that we have so many deals going on at the same time, it's just going to a net profit margin. We use a donor advised fund. We use Waterstone to manage the giving. They basically are checking the 501c3 status. They're making sure the paperwork is in order. They do a lot of background type stuff as they manage a donor advised fund, and then we can schedule giving out to the nonprofits that we support. And that number has grown. This next slide is not going to be super accurate, but 35 nonprofit partners, it's probably up to 42 now. 275,000 lives have been impacted, and this is just for last calendar year. We were purchasing cargo vans when Russia invaded Ukraine. We had a Ukrainian pastor who actually went to ministry school with my COO here in the States, and he was pastoring a church in the Ukraine. And he called us up and he said, "Hey, there's an invasion going on. We need to get women and children out of country." And we were able to purchase cargo vans and actually some bulletproof vests and blankets for kids to get wrapped into in these vans and run them out of country when that war started. We have fed 1,400 families. 1,400 families received access to a special needs playground in New Jersey. 15,200 children received a meal every day in Nicaragua. And just all these great things, right, that we're able to do. Like if you remember when we were leaving Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan, we were able to pay for fuel for multiple 757 airliners that were taking Afghani refugees that were helping United States soldiers and forces to get them out of country as well, so that they weren't in jeopardy of being killed. So lots of impact from just this giving aspect. So that was, the first pronged approach. After we started doing that, we were like, man, how can we steward the souls of the people that live on site? And we partnered with a company that's 501c3 called Apartment Life. They're a nonprofit as well. We funnel a portion of the donor advised funds to Apartment Life to serve the community. So we give free apartments to on-site investors. They're doing bi-weekly community events They're helping create a culture and a community. And this is what's shocking, right? Talk about doing well by doing good. Lease renewals or lease attrition is typically 65 to 75% in the apartment world. And as we implement these programs on site, people have this sense of community. They know their neighbors, their kids are playing together. They're just getting invited to do a lot more community type things. And then the lease attrition that we were seeing at 65, 70% plummets to 30%. People are staying longer. That's less CapEx work that we have to do. That's less renovation that we have to do, because when people move out is when we typically have to do renovations. And it's driving this sense of community and purpose. We're getting better Google reviews. We're getting people to stay longer. And in turn, what that does is create a higher internal rate of return for us and our investors. So you can see some of the stats of apartment life over on the right-hand side. And you can see 47% likelihood of renewal among residents that have 7 or more friends. So you think about if you've ever lived in an apartment community, I have, and you can see that you don't know people, so it's easier to move out, right? And if you know people, then you're more likely to stay. So phase 3 is we have another nonprofit that we were working with. They've done this study that shows that 37% of America lives in multifamily housing, which is about 100 million people. 95% of those folks are unchurched. So what that means is that we have a local church that can come in and create a multifamily ministry to adopt the community. And they will create a multifamily curriculum inside of a church to be the intentional bridge between serving tenants and on-site property managers. So they're working in conjunction with the on-site apartment life cares teams that live there. And we're doing all kinds of cool stuff through those churches. They're doing, there's mechanics that serve on the weekends that will come and do oil changes and tire rotations for single moms. We're doing, we're dropping off diapers and wipes to new moms when they come home from the hospital. We are implementing a tutoring program this year for over the summer, because we have multifamily kids typically fall further behind than their single family counterparts over the summer. So we found that kids between 5 and 13, 5 and 14, if we can provide them with free on-site tutoring, then those kids don't fall as far behind as they typically were. And we'll get into another cool program that we're implementing here as well. But just talk about a little bit of a case study. So this is the Sky Reserve, Brandon, Florida, 982 units, $200 million acquisition. A real estate investment trust was one of our partners. We were a very small partner in this deal originally. And it was a $257 million acquisition, about a $200 million loan. So as you know, interest rates have gone up. As we are doing refinances, there's oftentimes where the bank is asking us to purchase the loan down. So our share of that note buy down would have been about $300,000. And the real estate investment trust that had $57 million in the deal, they would have needed to bring another $9.5 million. So as REITs sometimes do, they decided that they're going to take the write-off and completely remove themselves from the deal, not put in the additional nearly $10 million, and just take the $57 million equity check and write it off. So they took the write down last year for $57 million. They took it as a loss against their other gains. This is a small portion of their portfolio. They're about a $5 billion REIT, and most of their assets under management are related to single family mortgages. So single family mortgages are their bread and butter, and they only had about 300 million in these types of deals. So we negotiated with them to buy their position out if we were to go bring the rest of the money in to buy the note down. So the note was bought down to 189 million by us, and we negotiated to purchase their $57 million in equity for 50 grand. So really an incredible deal, and it gives us access to these 982 units. So investor projected returns 20 to 22% per annum. We're going to be giving 3 free apartments on site to those cares teams that we talked about before, and implement some of those programs that we just discussed. And we project that this project alone will result in over $1 million over the life of the project. Secondarily, Demora Village, 420 units. We're purchasing this because of a partnership litigation, so that's unfortunate, but we purchased it at $100,000 a unit or 42 million. Appraisal just came back at 145 a unit or 61 million. What's interesting about this is it's 210 separately deeded duplexes. And what we're going to do, we're already partnered with the city of Lubbock to talk about low down payment FHA programs, some down payment assistance for qualified tenants. And we're going to teach financial principles to these tenants to help them increase their credit, decrease their debt, and save for a down payment. So our goal here is to create home ownership while we continue with our three-pronged approach to philanthropy. What's really interesting about this particular project is as we um, as we move people from tenant to home ownership, the average net worth goes up by nearly 40 times. So the average net worth of a homeowner in the United States is $400,000. The average net worth of a renter is $10,400. So there's a pretty large disparity or wealth gap that gets created between tenant and homeowner. And here, over a 3 to 5 year period of time, because they're separately deeded duplexes, we can help these folks become more financially literate to not just become a homeowner, but actually become a landlord, right? Because they're going to own a duplex, they're going to live in half of it, rent out the other half. So really cool in terms of how we can create some generational wealth over time through projects like this. So these are just some of the cool programs that we're able to implement by being intentional, right? And then this is just kind of a call to action. How do you see the concept of stewardship evolving in today's world? And what personal values and experiences are you guys thinking about when you're making your investments, right? And if we can encourage you to be more intentional about those things, then you get to have kind of a double portion type of return. You're getting solid economic returns, but also able to make serious impact that's trackable in people's lives. And that last Demora Village place, I can't wait for us to take that over and rebrand it. I'd love to rebrand it the last place you'll ever rent, as we're teaching people to get to a place of home ownership and even investment management. So I think that's it for me.
Yeah, great. It's
Alex, I think.
yes, and definitely some great points. And the nice thing is that kind of with what you're talking about, while certainly your core value being a Christian faith-based ethos into this, the bigger concept that I really like to take away from this is that you can apply your worldview, and I would like to think that many people would like to take the tenets of altruism and giving in any regard. But even if you don't necessarily follow the Christian faith, a lot of the points here are very salient to a lot of what we're doing. The big point to be drawn is that you don't have to divorce a positive impact in the world from making returns. Those two can go hand in hand, which I think is, again, a very powerful message across a very broad spectrum of people that we certainly have as clients and as listeners to these webinars. One thing that I would kind of like to dive into a little bit deeper, though, is that I think it's a little bit easier to kind of make the correlation of positive, impactful things that you can do in people's lives when you're dealing with their home, right? You're directly dealing with people and the communities around them and everything like that. But you mentioned that Integrity Holdings kind of has a little bit more of a broader scope of what they deal with, things like self-storage and other types of asset classes in the real estate realm. So I'd be curious to know kind of, how do you kind of navigate that when you're not necessarily dealing with, the end, if you're just dealing with people's stuff, right? It's a little bit harder to maybe do that impact. So when you look at the different areas that you invest, how do you kind of change, if an asset comes up that's, let's say, self-storage, do you look more towards like, what is kind of the differences that you look at on how that makes an impact versus, like you said, with some of the community things that you try to build around an apartment complex? How do those things kind of differ, and how do you navigate your goal in making an impact with those different asset classes?
Yeah, and I think if you're focused intentionally about impact first, then there's no shortage of need in the world, so it pops up For example, one of our investors works for a nonprofit that was just gifted, um, I forget what the number was. I think it was $8 million worth of toys from a major toy manufacturer. And they were just given this gift and they were like, I don't know what to do with it, right? So we called on some of the other self-storage operators that we know. And we said, hey, this is a nationwide thing. They're a nationwide nonprofit. They need to store these $8 million worth of gifts as they start to give them out to different charities. So we were able to, talk about, can you give a free self-storage facility or unit in your facility, right? It doesn't make a huge dent in the profit margin, but you're helping this nonprofit store what was also a altruistic gift by somebody else. So I think if you're just thinking through where can we help um, as an intentional piece of ownership of any kind of dirt, then the needs that pop up, you can think to on how to serve them. And also, when you are out in front, like we are in front of so many people talking about what it is that drives us and what the heart is behind the business, um, people call on you, and there's needs everywhere that can get fulfilled. So even if we can't fulfill them, hopefully we know people in the space that might be able to, right? In senior housing, how are we treating the seniors that are living in the communities? What's the what are the nursing practices that are going on? What is the culture and community looking like inside of that, right, to honor the elderly? So just different types of things can get implemented. About 85% of our portfolio is multifamily and student housing, so that's kind of what we focused on in this presentation because it's easy, it's replicable. Um, but yeah, certainly in those other asset classes, sometimes you have to get a little creative.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good point. Is that not everything's created equal as far as, the accessibility to kind of make impacts. And that's, a good thing to kind of look at, just like not everything's the same when it comes to investor return profiles. You have to look at everything individually, and having a very segmented approach, I think is very good. Just a couple questions that we have pop up so far. Let me just scroll up a little bit. Sorry. So someone asked, will you be sharing some investment opportunities? Specifically when it comes to investment opportunities and things like that, it's always best to reach out to a provider directly. There are laws and regulations regarding solicitation of investors directly and providing investment specific uh, things to a broad audience. But Steve, if you could maybe plug your contact info, so if people want to reach out to you directly, they can also reach out to you regarding anything you might have going on.
Yeah, of course.
Was it on a previous slide, or you can just certainly go ahead and plug it right now?
Oh yeah, so I was just going to type it in the chat just so you have a good place to go, but it's investing
Yeah,
with
type it in
purpose.
there as well. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, investingwithpurpose.org is our website, and I'll throw my email address and phone number in here as well. We do have obviously opportunities all the time, so would love to just kind of understand what people are looking for and if it's a good fit for them and stuff like that. Yeah, so investingwithpurpose.org, you can click the partner with us button and submit some information there, and one of my teammates will call you or contact you. Uh, my email is Steven with a V, Steven, at the name of the company's Integrity Holdings Group, so it's at integrityhg.com. Those are the
All
best
right,
ways to get in
fantastic.
touch with us.
Awesome. Okay, great. And then we have someone else asking regarding, there's kind of two parts to this. Is that you have the outreach that you want to do as well in the world, according to your own ethos and values. But do you also, as far as kind of a hiring practice, try to hire along those same values as well to help try to promote that as kind of a core value of your company?
So no, I mean, I'd say in terms of, I get this question a lot because our first core value is Christ's likeness, right? And not everybody in our company is a Christian. So how do those things correlate? And really what we aim and endeavor to do is really have people that are filled with integrity, accountability, servant-minded leadership, things like that. So being the company that we are, like we just hired a new employee not too long ago. We had 800 applicants and it was a grueling process to go through. But sometimes people are just coming to us because of our worldview, because of what we stand for, and they want to partner with that. And other times it's because they appreciate the fact that we operate in excellence first. Our faith is a driving force behind it, but we want to be the best at what we do as well. So the short answer is it's not a qualifier or disqualifier for us. We find that a lot of people have similar hearts without maybe similar faith beliefs. So it's certainly talked about openly like we have done here today. So I think some people will self-select and some people will self-deselect, but it's not a requirement one way or the other for us.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good point to bring out, especially being forward with your own beliefs, as well as that it's a not a qualifying factor. People can share similar beliefs across a multitude of different belief structures, which is a cool part about the world. People have a lot more in common than maybe they would otherwise otherwise realize. Um, and so one a little bit more pointed, and again, I'm not sure if you can or can't answer this question, Stephen, but what are your minimum investments for the different types of investments, and what are the hold times for different types of investments, or does it vary project by project?
Yeah, only because we're not sure who's on the call in terms of accredited versus non-accredited. Love for you just to fill out that form so we can get on a one-on-one call to kind of talk through that. The SEC has significant requirements about what we're able to talk through. We can speak to the minimum, right? Our fund minimum is $250,000, but for Advanta IRA members, we've done a $100,000 minimum investment. Hold periods vary from 3 to 5 years. Rates of return will have to get discussed on an individual call.
Yeah, absolutely. The federal government likes to be very specific, and I think that's to the benefit of some things as well, to kind of keep things very in the interest of safety for investors, on keeping people from just wildly soliciting investors to maybe those who aren't suited for an investment. But yeah, it's again, I always turn it over to the people on the call to answer those
Sure.
a little bit better. And someone asked, they missed your contact info. Can you plug it again real quick? I believe Stephen had put it in the chat for the person that asked that, but if you just want to quickly enumerate that before we close things up.
Yep, it's investingwithpurpose.org, and you can click the partner with us button there, or my email is Steven with a V at integrityhg.com. That's our name of the company's Integrity Holdings Group, so the email is integrityhg.com.
Alrighty. Well, that was the last question that we had, I believe. Let me just double check. If anyone did want to grab a copy of the slides, they are attached as a handout. Again, we do appreciate everyone taking time out of their day, because the most valuable asset that we all have, some may disagree, but I always think it's time, because we can't make any more of it no matter how much we invest and how well we do. So taking some of that time today, I do really appreciate it, Stephen, because again, it's the one finite resource that we all share. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for joining with us today. It's been a pleasure having you all on. This will be posted to our YouTube channel probably today or tomorrow. If you have any other questions, okay, I think that's it. All right, great. Well, with that said, I will let everyone go. Again, Stephen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone.